When I was 3 years old, I used to drag the chair from the dining room of our house with much effort to place it in front of the sink. You see, the mirror above the sink was too high for me to reach. So I climbed on this chair, switched on the light, and stared at myself in the mirror for hours. I thought I was the most beautiful creature in the whole universe, and that there was nothing, no one, more magnificent than I was. But as I grew up, this sense of myself shattered. With puberty, I grew ugly, a face full of pimples, fat and short. And people all around me pointed out my own ugliness to me. Oh, you can find those bullies everywhere. For many years unto adulthood, I believed I was ugly, hence unlovable. In the end, our minds equate everything to love. As if life was an attest to the fact, I always ended up hanging out with friends who were taller than me, thinner than me, prettier than me, and all the boys' attention were on them. I too yearned to be beautiful, like them. If only I were an inch taller, if only I were an inch thinner, if only I were a shade fairer, if only my face weren't so round, if only, if only, if only. But I believed that I was not beautiful by any societal standards. So I focused on academics and excelled. At a very young age, still in my teens, I won a full scholarship to study abroad and left India. Since then, I have not just traveled, but lived in different continents across the world. To perceive the world through my own eyes for several years on various student exchange programs. And what I discovered surprised me. You see, when I was in Singapore, the small petite women over there with their Chinese features, demure nature, and fair complexion were considered beauty in that society. Whereas when I was in Africa, the big voluptuous African women with their rounded assets and curves were considered beautiful in that society. In fact, the fatter a woman is, the more beautiful she is as her fat contributes to her curves. Here are some paintings by Augustine Cassi of African women depicting their rounded curvaceous figures. When I ate the African food, I had put on quite a bit of tummy because their food over there consisted of yams, cassava, gari, plantain, yuca, basically a lot of starch. But people there told me it was another curve in my body, hence beautiful. Women there are celebrated for their rounded assets, no matter what shape or size they come in. While some societies worship big, curvaceous, voluptuous women, others like straight, thin, athletic figures. By whose standards would you go by? The African sun had scorched my skin quite a bit, and I had become very dark there. When I returned to India, I remember I was attending Diwali in a beautiful sari that was designed by me. One man of about my dad's age came up to me and said, "You look good in this sari, but if only you had your dad's fair color, you would look so much more beautiful." I never forgot that ungracious comment from the man. Educated, civilized, cultured, respectable people in society who you expect to have broad mindsets speak like this. Young and naive that I was then, I gulped it down and did not have the courage to retaliate. But today I do. Hence, I am here sharing my story with you. So back to my story. When I was in the Europe and the Americas, everybody loved my wheatish complexion. In fact, the darker I got, the more beautiful I felt. Although Latin women are considered very beautiful, I was especially exotic there for my darker skin tone. Then when I went to South America, I got the shock of my life. As a kid, I used to watch beauty pageants, Miss Universe contests, and had the impression that South American women were very beautiful. Venezuela is touted to be the country where the women are considered among the most beautiful in that society. But what did I find in Venezuela? In that society, a woman's beauty is so blown up that at the young age of 15, 16, 17 years of age, every second girl goes under the knife to get silicone implants to augment their assets, liposuction to lose flab, cosmetic surgery to correct features, and so on. When I went clothes shopping there, I would be surprised to see these larger-than-life-sized mannequins with exaggerated assets that were set as the beauty parameters for women in those countries. Just Google mannequins in Venezuela and see what you get. Here I have included a few images of Google search where you can see that it looks as if footballs are glued to the chest of every mannequin in this country. And this is the beauty parameter of the women in those societies. Here are some news extracts from the New York Post, BBC News, and the Guardian newspapers, where you can see that this plastic surgery industry in those countries, Venezuela is just one example, but most South American countries, including, of course, India, Mexico, other countries too, it's not as rampant as it is there. However, people there are doing this at as young as 15, 16, 17 years of age. And this is really harmful for you because there is a big chance of these implants rupturing, especially in airplanes during at high altitudes or during medical procedures like mammograms, not to mention all the health hazards it poses, including cancer, bacterial infection, chronic pains, disfigurement, etc. Also the need to change these implants every 10 years or so. Women who cannot afford these implants may be carrying inside them old implants which are prone to leakage, thus endangering their lives. I was a teacher there, and once I asked a 13-year-old girl what her opinion was on plastic surgery. And she said, "I think it is really good because it improves our self-esteem." Yes, that was her answer. Her answer made me really sad because she was a very beautiful girl, only 13 years old, and probably in the next 2 years, she was going under the knife as well. In fact, there is a tradition in Venezuela that when a girl turns 15, which is called quinceañera in Spanish, her parents are supposed to give her a big gift. And most times, that is a breast implant surgery. So then I understood a girl's entire sense of self, especially in vain countries like this, where not much intellectual importance is given to these girls, comes from the way she looks. And if one part of her body is corrected, she starts finding fault with another, constantly comparing herself with others, criticizing her own body. The world has come to this stage where we have started loving plastic. Worse still, people's self-esteem is derived out of plastic. So then, after living in all these different cultures, I wondered if I were to go by societal parameters, what my own beauty standards would be. When I got really tanned due to the African sun, people in India said I was too dark. Not to mention an entire beauty industry in this country selling fairness products, making billions of money through it, which contain harmful chemicals that play with the melanin content of our skin. When I got fat in Africa, people said I was curvy, hence pretty, whereas that would be fat in my country. When I was in the Europe and the Americas, I was especially worshipped for my dark complexion. I felt more accepted in other countries than in my own. You see, cultures are based on certain belief systems that are held as true by a large section of humanity. Every culture is locked into beliefs that are true only for that culture and may not function for cultures outside of that society. Because culture changes from region to region, city to city, country to country, continent to continent. And cultures are locked into belief systems, and beliefs are automatic. We don't even think twice before acting on them. When those beliefs are dysfunctional and disempowering, that is when it poses real challenges to the people in those societies. Because our belief systems come from the culture we are born in or we are raised in. But I literally grew up in different cultures of the world. So I had the opportunity to perceive belief systems from like a bird's eye view in every culture and see the dysfunctional pattern in every culture, including ours, the ones in South America, Central America, Africa, Europe, everywhere. So these beliefs can be so harmful that entire societies are based on that. But when our culture doesn't serve us, when our culture cannot love us, it becomes cruel to us. Imagine those 13, 14, 15-year-old girls going under the knife and their parents allowing that. What mayhem! When our culture cannot accept us the way we are, it poses psychological problems. For example, weight gain happens because at some level we want to stay safe and protect ourselves from hurt. The subconscious mind, where strange logic exists, believes that the excess weight, the excess flab, is a form of protection from incoming pain and boundary violation. This is why most weight loss efforts don't work or backfire, because in those systems, what happens is people are trying to lose weight more from a place of self-hate than from a place of self-love. And this is where internal resistance is created. Your own internal self stops you from progressing. And the fastest way to remove this resistance is radical self-acceptance. Find the one part of your body that you think is the most unattractive or ugly. Now give your unconditional love to that part of yourself. I mean, truly love. I will give you an instance of resistance. I know this girl who is quite chubby, and she knew she needed to lose weight. So one day she told her dad that she wants to lose some weight. And her dad said, yes, you are better off shedding that excess weight. And that's it. Her entire weight loss efforts were sabotaged. You know why? Because deep inside she felt unlovable by her own father, unacceptable for the way that she was. So this is how resistance is created. And the fastest way to get over our resistance is that self-acceptance that I talked about. So how did I overcome my internal resistance? I went back to the mirror. I knew something at the age of 3 that I had forgotten over time. I needed to recapture that essence. So I stared at myself in the mirror for hours again until I fell in love with myself. And then something strange happened. The excess weight fell off. I started to feel more comfortable in my own skin, and the attention started pouring in. So much attention that most of it was unwanted anyways. The mirror exercise is a great way to shift our internal realities. Just stand in front of a mirror and say to yourself, I am enough. And that is enough, really, to shift your reality instantly. So, a 3-year-old girl who has no idea what beauty standards might be, who looks into the mirror and thinks she is the most magnificent creature, what did I see in me then that I had forgotten to perceive as I grew up? There must have been a spark of divinity that was so beautiful within me that took my own breath away. Beauty does not lie in the eye of the beholder. It lies in you. But you have to place it in there to see it reflected by the beholder. Truth is beauty, and beauty is truth. It is the real you that everyone falls in love with anyways. Do you believe this? Then it is true. Imagine you were born into a society with no belief systems, and you can choose to believe anything that you want about yourself. You have a blank slate with you, and you can write anything on it. Now, the most important question is, what are you going to write? Whatever you write, make sure it is something damn good, because that is the story you are going to live out here during your time on earth, and the history of the world will be impacted because of it. The divine in me honors the divine in you. Namaste.